Rama Sundar Rangnathan, an exponent of the Indore Gharana in Hindustani Shastriya Sangeet, trained under Pandit Tejpal Singh ji and late Shanti Sharma ji. With over 20 years of experience, she is an All India Radio A grade artist performing at prestigious festivals nationwide. Despite holding degrees in commerce and an MBA, she pursued music. Recognized with the Kala Ratan Samman Award 2023 by the Gurgaon administration, she is also featured in Dr. Alka Pandey's book. Currently pursuing her doctoral research on women Bhakti saints under Dr. L. Subramaniam ji.
Stay connected, subscribe to our channel, and do not forget to press the bell icon for receiving our regular updates.
गंगा मैया गंगा मैया गंगा मैया
Today we have with us Rama Sundar Ranganathan ji. I am very, very happy and pleased to invite her to the studio of Chaibrari. She is an eminent Hindustani Shastriya vocalist. I'm so glad, Rama ji, that you come here today to Chaibrari. Welcome.
Thanks a lot. It's absolutely my pleasure to be here, Bhumika ji.
So let's get into the flow of unraveling a Hindustani vocalist's journey of her music so far. So Ramaji, how did it all start for you? When did you first know that you wanted to do music? What was your childhood like? And when was the first inkling received?
See, I started learning from a very young age. I belong to a South Indian family, so learning music was a given. So I started learning even as a school kid, and by the time I reached 11th, I had learnt the foundations of Indian classical music. I took a break from music at that point, claiming to want to get into my academics. And
claiming, you said, so basically you were not very, very deeply into music at that time.
Yes, I could say that it was more duty that I was doing, because my mother is a Carnatic classical vocalist. So she taught us, and I was just doing my duty as a child to learn, imbibe music at that point. My heart wasn't in it. So I took a break from music at that point, and it turned out to be a longish break.
All right, so it was initial, till grade 11 you said you pursued Carnatic music, and then it was your academic journey. So how many years of academics did you follow till music came back to your life, and what was the journey inside in that phase?
See, academics are important, and this is something that was instilled into me by my parents, and I do believe that even as an independent thinker. It gives you something to fall back on. So I did my master's in commerce. I did my MBA from London University. I worked for a while, and so it wasn't planned that I get back into music. I was married, I was working, and then I had my daughter also. And at that point, one of my friends and I went to an HMV shop, and we were just buying music. You know, those days you would buy cassettes. So we're just buying music, and I bought a bunch of music, so did she. We came back home, and after 2 days she comes to my house and she thrusts a cassette into my hand, saying that, I remember, Rama, that you had learned classical music as a child, so maybe you'd like to listen to this. I just got this because the guy did not have change. So I just had to make up, you know, some 50-55 rupees more. So I bought this cassette. I'm not into classical. So I remember my jawab. I said, so am I. I'm not into classical, but let me just take it. And I took it, and it was a cassette by Ustad Rashid Khan Saab. And I played it, and it was a composition in Puriya Dhanashri. The first A side had complete Puriya Dhanashri.
Oh, yeah. We
for-
used to have two sides
two
to the cassettes.
sides.
I'm sure our audience remembers all that.
So I heard it and I was just blown over. The music was something which is out of the world, and I could not, sleep for a couple of nights after that.
Wow.
I said, this is
that
the
was
music.
the impact on you.
That was the impact, and I would call it serendipity, and that's how the germ of an idea got into my head that I need to learn this music, and it's called Hindustani classical music.
Okay. So what I, as a listener to this story, is compelled to conclude that when the seed is there inside you, it's just a matter of time and the trigger when it kind of shows up and just shoots itself out, and then there is no looking back. There is no way you can suppress it.
But you have to listen to that inner voice.
I believe that it's
You
strong
have
enough that you can't undo it, right?
Yes.
Something
And
like
you
that.
have to act upon it.
Yes.
That's what I'd like to tell my viewers, that you listen to the inner voice and you act upon it. Who knows what comes out of that?
Yeah. You have to be a risk taker for it, right?
Yes.
I mean, because you already had a job by then, and you were, well settled into your career, so to say. But to then decide, no, I want to do music seriously, and that to Hindustani classical is so demanding. So,
Absolutely.
So to be able to listen to that voice, one really has to take that leap of courage.
Yes. Yes. What is life without one's share of pain, right? It can sometimes be your own, it can sometimes be borrowed pain.
कुदरत के सब बंदे कुदरत के सब बंदे अव्वल अल्लाह नूर यू पाया अव्वल अल्लाह नूर यू पाया कुदरत के सब बंदे कुदरत के सब बंदे एक नूर पे सब जग उपजिया एक नूर पे सब जग उपजिया कौन भले कौन मंदे कौन भले कौन मंदे
So then, how did your journey into the learning of Hindustani begin?
Started very humbly, I would say. There was a gentleman called Vinod ji who used to come all the way from Jhansi to Delhi, Gurgaon. Weekends mein aate the. He used to come to Gurgaon and teach people in and around. And I got initiated into music through him, though he would teach bhajans and ghazals. But he also gave me an introduction into ragas. And there's another interesting story there as to how I got more determined to learn Hindustani classical Khayal Gaiki. So he was teaching me for 6 months, 9 months, and he implied that I had potential. And at one point, I told him, Sir, मुझे Khayal Gaiki सीखनी है, आप मुझे राग सिखाइए. And I should qualify this by saying that he is one of the most genuine, honest, straightforward persons I've ever met. So coming from him, I took it nicely. The point he made was, and the answer he gave me was, आपसे नहीं होगा,
Oh my God, he said that.
क्योंकि
Okay.
इसमें बहुत मेहनत की ज़रूरत है, हज़ारों घंटों का रियाज है इसमें, आपसे नहीं होगा. So
So I would like to interrupt you here. When a person who's so authentic, so genuine, so transparent, what would have triggered him? Because maybe an Indian woman who has so many other tie-ups. So was that the reason why he kind of came to the conclusion that aapse nahi
yeah,
hoga?
it could be because I already had a
Baby by
child,
then,
yeah,
the kid
then,
by,
and he probably felt that how would she devote, you know, 8-9 hours of riyaz.
So that's a valid
So it was a very
impediment
valid,
that he saw.
yeah. No, I took it nicely. I took it in a good way. You know, it made me think that why don't I try? Why don't I try and disprove him?
Yeah, sometimes that kind of a challenge
Yeah.
pushes you.
Yeah, something challenged.
spurt.
Yeah, it was challenging to me. And even till date, I remember that comment, and I thank him for his honest comment, which made me realize that ये मुश्किल है. Had he said yes, go ahead, बहुत आसान है, and then I had gone into it and found it so tough, I would have given it up. But when he said that, and I value his judgment, I understood that it was tough. So I got into it with the expectation that I might find it tough. So
So
that's
you were already in a
important.
way mentally prepared that somebody had warned you,
Yeah.
and you went into it with open eyes. It wasn't that
Absolutely.
somebody just painted a very
Absolutely.
glorious picture for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is what, I mean, at this point, I want to share with my audience that my first meeting with Ramaji was when I heard her for the first time. She was invited to Heritage School.
Oh yes.
And
yeah.
I was in the midst of my mental space where I was really wanting to sing, and I had been away from music for a very long time. And that time she started singing, and I'm in the audience, and the soulful voice goes deep into my heart, and something just makes me, just get out of that angst and agony that I was going through at that time. And just the listening of that pure music filled me up, enthralled me. Honestly, I don't know whether I ever shared it with you, that I was out of that zone into this zone. And I was like, when you are into pure listening, what can music do to you? That was the, opening eureka moment for me at that time. So, and Ramaji had, when I had learned, I approached her after that, and she was very kind. She said, Bhumika, I don't teach anybody, but since you're so keen. So I started going. But then when I could not justify giving music is due, it's due. So she was very honest with me. She told me, Bhumika, classical music requires a lot of dedication. I look back at that advice with a lot of gratitude, and I know that you meant everything perfect and right for me. And I think journey post that maybe geared itself in this direction. So I'm grateful to you being who you are.
No, I'd like to just make one comment here. I think classical art forms, be it dance, music, वो कला सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है. That kala is the biggest entity. We are all just serving that kala. So we have to take out our ego and do justice to that art form, whatever it takes, and try to keep it pure. So that was why I made that comment, and that was why probably
It was
Vinodji
received
made that
absolutely in its purity, with the intent, purity of intent with which you gave it to me. And now this reminds me of our interaction when you had talked about your time spent with your guru, and I want to understand how wonderful that journey of yours was with Shanti Didi, and we've heard stories about her, and I'd like our audience to know about the wonderful time that Ramaji spent with, and the tutelage you had with her.
Yes, I pursued Shanti Sharma ji for years. She again said she only teaches at the Kendra, Sri Ram Bharti Kala Kendra. She was never teaching anyone at home. Even till date, if you ask people, they would say that she's never taught anyone other than outside of the Kendra. So I don't know how she finally agreed to teach me, but she was a wonderful human being, exceptionally talented singer, very hardworking. So all those three things combine and make her music out of the world. She is no more, but her music is so beautiful that, and her students still, miss her and do justice to what she has taught all of us. But she had a very beautiful way of teaching. Again, I would go to her house after calling her that, should I come today? Some days she herself will call me in the morning and she'll say, come today. let's meet. I'd go to her place and she'll say, today I'm not going to teach you anything. Let's go watch a movie.
That's so interesting and such a spontaneous personality she was.
So I've watched 2-3 movies with her. I've gone shopping with her where she's bought me gifts, she's bought me books, she's bought me objects that she thought I'd like. So she was.
So it wasn't just a hierarchical guru and a shishya kind of a relationship, it was much more than that.
But while teaching,
Ah.
of course, there was that line
Hmm.
which one could not cross.
Which I
as a
believe is
guru.
quite important, right?
Very
Ah.
important in this Guru Shishya Parampara. So she maintained that. But she was like all gurus who are called gurus and who do justice to the label guru. She was extremely patient and extremely giving. Today, I think the word guru is misused a lot. But traditionally, the way a guru is meant to be, he or she is meant to be giving and patient and, treat you as their child. That's how she was.
Though, unfortunately, in today's times, we don't hear of many such stories. I mean, contemporary times, I don't know how much is the purity left in this bonding anymore, but we still hear such heartening stories like yours and a few here and there where Guru Shishya Parampara is still sustaining somehow in its purity of form. So when there is equal amount of dedication and love and bonding, then it can flower out into, maybe it gave you a permanent passion for music. Did you ever decide to be a professional musician when you were learning from her?
No, not
Okay.
at all.
Ah.
And that is the difference between my two gurus. When I started with Shanti Didi, I never thought beyond that particular note. So if I was learning Yaman, it was just that particular note of Yaman. I never thought I would go and give an audition at All India Radio, move from B high to A, start performing on stage.
So
never.
that thought never even crossed your
Never.
mind. This
It
is very-
never crossed my mind. The only thing I asked her is, should I pursue music as a field of studying? To which she said no. She said, just try to be a vocalist.
So that time, maybe the seed of you, sometime in future, being a vocalist was somewhere at the back of your head.
I never thought
You
I
never
would
thought of
perform,
that.
to be very honest.
Ah.
And that was the difference between Shanti ji, my period with Shanti ji, and then my period with Guru Pandit Tejpal Singh ji, to which I am sure will.
Yeah, now that would have been my next question. So what has been your journey with Guruji, Tejpal Singh ji?
See, Shanti Didi passed away in 2008. And after that, there was a huge vacuum. It was like an existential crisis in my life where I was questioning, what am I doing? Is music still there for me? Those kinds of things. Again, something very beautiful happened, a lovely story I'd like to recount, how I found Guruji. So in 2009, there was this article in the Hindu done by Anjana Rajanji. She had actually profiled Pandit Tejpal Singh ji. It was a full one-page article about Guruji's, music, his talim, his time with Ustad Amir Khan Sahab.
Okay,
And
Tejpal ji was a direct disciple of Amir Khan Sahab. So that's a great tutelage.
Great tutelage, great lineage, and I'm
lineage.
happy to say the same gharana, because Shanti ji was the disciple
Kirana,
of Pandit Amarnath ji, who was also a shagird of Ustad Amir Khan Sahab.
Okay.
So,
okay. So there was
Amarnath ji and Guru Pandit Tejpal ji are Guru Bhais. So it's the same gharana that I later joined. So that interview was read by my husband. I did not read that interview. He read that article in the Hindu and he said, look, Rama, did you know that Pandit Tejpal Singh ji lives in Delhi and he is very much an Indore Gharana exponent and such an eminent person. Why don't you approach him?
So obviously there was no looking back after that.
Yeah, that's how. And I could not find Guruji's phone number. उस समय शायद मोबाइल, but Guruji was too old maybe to have a mobile. I don't know. I could not find his number. It took 2 or 3 days for me to find his number through some circuitous route. And finally, I spoke to him, and he invited me to his place, and he auditioned me, and he, after a week or 10 days, he said,
Okay.
I will teach you.
Acha. So
And
in those
he-
10 days you were uncertain whether you would-
Uncertain. And he taught me for many months before he said, yes, I will take you as my Gandaban Shagid. So हमने इसी टाइम में May 14th को मैंने गुरुजी के साथ गंडा बंधा था, May 14th. So it's for me every year it's like a anniversary.
Yeah,
It's a
I can imagine.
day of
The sentiment
celebration.
and emotion
Absolutely. I
attached to
go
it.
to Guruji and Auntie Ji, Guruma. I take their blessings and learn something new on 14th of May.
So how many years now you've been learning under him?
I've been learning for the last 12 years from
Long time.
Guruji.
All right. So, Ramaji, I've often wondered that in one's lifetime, one has all sorts of experiences, and it's the difficult times, the times when we go through pain. There's a lot of evolution of our consciousness. So, what have been those nooks and crannies of your life which you would want to recount or share with our audience, which helped you or which were tough for you, but of course, I mean, eventually.
Sure. I mean, what is life without one's share of pain, right? It can sometimes be your own, it can sometimes be borrowed pain. In my case, I think, as I mentioned, 2008, when I lost my Guruji, Shanti Didi, it was a very tough period for me. Because you lose a guru who's been teaching you something which is so precious to you, and B, the feeling of being lost. What next? Because I'd quit my job and I was banking on music.
It's like all your stakes were there.
Yeah.
Everything was there.
Yeah.
And she wasn't just a guru, she was a
Much
friend
more.
to you. She was so much more. Mentor, guide.
Yeah. So that was a difficult phase for me. And luckily, Guruji came in front of me to, tide me over that period. So when I approached Pandit Tejpal Singh Ji, it was, I had just gotten out of that feeling of sorrow and
So there was a gap between you having stopped there and then resuming under Tejpal Singh Ji?
there was a gap.
How
I
long
was
was-
floundering for some time. I didn't know where to go. I was looking at different people for, guiding me and holding my hand. So that was a tough phase in my life. And of course, the other tough phase was when I lost my father more recently in 2018. Again, there
I
was
believe you had a brilliant relationship with your
I
father.
had a
He was-
beautiful relationship with my father, who loved to listen to me, and he was just a silent spectator. He knew nothing about music, even though he was married to my mom, who's an exponent of Carnatic music. But I guess I want to tell my audience, you need to know nothing in music to be a rasika. And the best example of that was my dad.
That's so well said.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very important point that, I mean, we feel classical music is so threatened. Yet, I mean, is there a way to evolve our listeners to come to a point where they can enjoy music? But you gave the example of your father, where he was a silent spectator, knew nothing about the technicalities of music, yet he was a lover of music. So, any childhood memories of you, and what really contributed to you? Do you see any particular remembrances that made you who you are, and the inputs that you consciously or unconsciously acquired through that environment because of your parents being who they were, which have been instrumental in carving you out the way you have turned out?
See, I strongly feel that no matter what field you are pursuing, you need to have exposure in other related areas, or sometimes even unrelated areas. Like my own Guruji, Pandit Tejpal Singh Ji, he was a maths professor. And so often people ask him, how do you connect?
Apparently very opposite streams.
Apparently
Haan,
very
haan.
opposite, but there are similarities.
connections, haan.
Maths at its highest level is very philosophical. So I feel, coming back to your question, I'm indebted to my parents for the fact that they put me into dance class, music class. Both the things I don't do anymore, as in the music is not Carnatic. My chosen field is Hindustani, and dance I only watch now. I don't dance. I learned Bharatnatyam. But I also pursued writing in a small way. And much later in my life, I took a fancy for painting. And I studied a lot in that area, painting. I paint even now. I read a lot related to painting. So these may not directly show in my music, but it helps. It helps, it gives you a depth in your field.
So it's that early childhood environment where you were exposed to all these things very early, which eventually flower out, whatever time they flower out. But yes, that environment plays a huge role. But your parents, like you had mentioned in your interaction, that your mother was always, even when she was working in the kitchen, she was constantly at the back of her head practicing, and you were absorbing, unconsciously absorbing maybe. She would take you for concerts and...
Absolutely. I mean, you remember so well, Bhumika. I did say this. My earliest memory of music is, it's not even a memory, it's a sensation of my mom's fingers on my body.
Okay. On your body, she would be tapping and counting.
Yeah, counting. You know, because I was the fourth child, I think I was connected physically a lot closer to my mom. So oftentimes it's like on my body, say on my hand, she's tapping and she's practicing her
I'm visualizing it, and I'm finding it so, I mean, unprecedented and unconscious a way the child is absorbing music.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's my earliest memories of music.
So that at this point, I want to kind of just interrupt the flow, and I want to tell our audience that I wasn't aware when I was interacting with Ramaji that she's also learnt Bharatnatyam for 7 long years.
Yes.
So, and she said she was more confident in Bharatnatyam than in Carnatic music at that time, and it's so ironical that she's a full-on classical vocalist now, and she shed the dance, and she was stage afraid. She didn't want to be on stage. So that's why you eventually moved out of dancing also?
Yes. I'd like to make a point here. Why did I not connect with Carnatic classical?
That's a good point. I would
One
have
might
wanted
wonder
to,
because Carnatic and Hindustani are not different. Both follow the same notes. It's very similar, right? It's just the grammar and the style of singing. Ragas wohi hain. Okay, tals are different. But the start was one Indian classical music from where the two branched out. The reason why I could not connect with Carnatic music is because I could not understand the language. Now, many of the compositions in Carnatic are in Telugu. And I'm a native Tamil speaker who's lived in Delhi all my life. So Hindi for me is very fluent. Tamil I can speak because we speak that at home. But Telugu was not my mother tongue.
So that was a point of disconnection.
Point of disconnection. There was no bhava. I could not connect to the poetry. And I realized for me poetry is very important.
Yeah, as a temperament, you are a poet, and
Yes.
you have found music is also a very poetic kind of a talent. So, first challenge is you being a kid. As a kid, one is exposed to classical music, which anyway is very heavy duty. On top of that, you could not even connect to understanding what you were doing. So that was one major reason why you could not have found it interesting or gluing enough for you to carry it through.
Yeah.
Right. Ramaji has also been into poetry, into art, and she takes workshops in schools. So she's a multifaceted personality, and she's now doing her PhD. So I'd like to talk about or inquire from you now, Ramaji. When you do workshops, you're doing music and art with children. So in a way, you're trying to pass on the essential understanding of art in a holistic manner. So I'd like you to explain it to us and our audience. How do you do it, and how do you ensure that the children get the best out of it in your own very unique way? I believe you do it.
See, for me, music is foremost. But what I realize is it's also very daunting. Everyone sings, yes, but the moment you talk about classical music, khayal gaiki, or even semi-classical, people feel, oh, it's a little daunting for them. So and especially when you are talking to children, they switch off. It's not easy for them. So since I was, as I mentioned, I'm deeply into painting. I love looking at art. I love, studying the works of masters. I said, why not I combine colors and raga? So the beginning comes from colors. I tell them to paint whatever they feel like, and I also throw in aspects of music so that anjane mein hi kuch seekh jaye wo. So that is how I use, if I may say so, I use art to educate music.
So it's an indirect way of actually instilling the love for music, that they are unconsciously listening and absorbing.
Yes.
Otherwise, it becomes very overwhelming at times. And for young children, definitely it is not easy to enjoy that form of music.
And they will revolt. They'll say, we don't want to do it.
I found it very interesting when you talked about how I was curious when I heard that you do workshops where you're mingling both art and music, and how are you doing it. So Ramaji explained it to me. I'd like you to explain how you, if for the benefit of our audience, how do you merge the two? Like I remember that you sing a piece of, like you said, Bhairav, you sang for them. And then you said, okay, now pick up maybe red and green and do it. And one child responded very interestingly that, ma'am, I felt sad. So I don't want to use these colors, which is so amazing. Because that's the impact of a rag, and especially Bhairav rag, which is very somber and very, what else? What are the words that you'd like to describe that rag with, and how did that channel then happen between you and the kid?
Yeah, it was an eye-opener for me, Bhumika, because we often in our education, we just consider one raga to be one emotion. But a lot of times when you go and sing that in front of a child, they see things which you don't. So a lot of times I sing a very short alap and I tell them just in one word, what do you say? So some of them say in Hindi, some in English. Sometimes I tell them just draw one object which comes to your mind. So sometimes when you say Bhairav and you're thinking that it's devotion, bhakti, they could just, put you off balance by saying that it reminded me of a chair, and then they go on to explain why. So it's like it opens doors in your head which normally you may not want to see. So it's actually also an education for us.
As they say, teaching is the best form of learning, and when you're coming up with innovative ways of being able to reach out to them, I think that's huge evolution for the person who's at the starting end of it. I also feel that when you've designed this very unique way of being able to approach music, you are also opening up the doors for them getting an inlet into the abstract zone. Because you were just singing an alap where there are no words, and yet they are having feelings which they are eventually going to be visualizing. So it's a brilliant way that you do your workshops, and I'm very, very thrilled by the idea of you doing stuff like this. So what are the other areas of your life, or any certain things that you feel have really overwhelmingly impacted you in your life? Anything that you'd like to share with our audience? There should be so much more that I know I have to talk to you about. Maybe we start from here.
Poetry is something which speaks to me a lot, and I've been studying the poetry of women Bhakti saints, and my latest work is on the poetry of women Bhakti saints. By that I mean saints who existed from the 9th century till say the 16th century, and some of their poetry is so bold. Even today, it's quite revolutionary, and it still rings true. So that is something which has really impacted me. And I must say at this point that I'm not a feminist who goes around saying that we should fight for this or that. But I really like the boldness and the ease with which they communicated their thoughts, what they didn't agree with the society, and for them to have said it in a beautiful form, which we are able to, sing today. It was not as if they were fighting in that sense, but they were fighting in a very nice way. Like what Gandhiji would say, satyagraha.
So
So
in a very peaceful and a very calm manner,
yeah,
they're conveying their
made
point of
their
view.
point.
Hmm.
One could argue that what changed, even now those problems are there, but at least they questioned it.
At least they questioned it and
Yeah.
expressed it and didn't just
Expressed
take
it.
it sitting
Yeah.
down and gulping, suppressing themselves. So you've been doing your PhD in this area. The research is continuing on the women Bhakti saints. And you've also been writing yourself. So you have already published some of your poetry.
Some of them have been
in some,
published.
in
Yeah, I have
several publications, yeah.
yes.
So would you like to read some piece of yours for our audience? I would love them to.
I'd like to share one of my poems. I'd definitely like to read out one of my poems which I specifically brought today for Chaibrary. So may I?
Yeah, please, really looking forward to it. I would love our audience to have a peek into this side of your profile and personality.
So this is called Ashes of a Rose.
Ashes of a
Charukesi.
Rose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ashes of a Rose, Charukesi.
For the benefit of our audience, I want to tell them that Charukeshi is a rag. So this is a trigger from that rag that you have put it into words of poetry. Please, yes.
The descending notes plundering, weaving a melody, oh so somber. Slow and halting, phrases play in and fade out, the tune haunting. Celebrating beauty and form, faith and trust, meditating on Shiva, form and the formless. Poignant poetry, a song celebrating pathos, catching the scent of a rose in its ashes. Notes that spill beyond the poetry, tunes move in their own rhythm that no tala can contain nor any beat can hold. Notes that are subtle and delicate, like the scent of a rose in its ashes.
It's powerful. It just left me so spellbound. I have no words. But our audience would have to listen to Charukeshi, which Ramaji is going to be doing, and then see the connect between the power of that rag and the power of what she's expressed through her lovely words. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So, Ramaji, with so many aspects to your personality, what do you primarily see yourself as? I'm sure as a Hindustani musician, you are the most active, but you are as avid into your painting. What do you see yourself as an artist?
I think I see myself as a musician, someone who enjoys other art forms also. I'd like other art forms to reflect in my music and to give me a center, to center me. And that is why I pursue poetry, which again comes from my music. Because I believe that to write poetry, the subject on which you write, you have to have command on, or you have to feel it deeply. Otherwise, poetry is a very deep art form, right? So that is why most of my poetry, or I would say all of my poetry, is only music inspired. And I also do music inspired art. In fact, I'd like to mention that I have a exhibition coming up in August 23rd to 27th.
Where you're exhibiting your paintings?
Yes,
Wow.
I'm exhibiting my painting.
That's awesome.
All of which
Rag inspired.
music inspired. And I'd like my viewers to come and definitely be a part of the celebration of music through art.
That's wonderful. I'm not going to miss it for sure. How does you being a visual artist influence your music? Though we've already covered it majorly, but anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Yes, it definitely influences in very subtle ways. But also, this is this is where I'd like to say something to the audience, where I'm sure young mothers, they have these conflicting views on whether they want to train their children in just music or do a whole load of things. I would definitely say that, you know, your child should be exposed to as many things: music, art, poetry. Even if you feel that the child is not inclined to those, in as much as it's possible. Obviously, you can't force them. And I say this because different art forms have different processes of learning. Let's say when you learn watercolors, very early on, and you would agree with me, Bhumika, because you also practice art, very early on you realize that one mistake and you have to redo. Watercolors is not forgiving, right?
Yes, it's not.
So you have to, you know that you have to plan your composition. You have to actually etch out, if you're making horses, you have to etch out the horse and then, you know, erase it lightly because dikhta bhi hai piche ka, and then, you know, do it. Of course, once you're evolved, once you reach that level, you are good. But I'm saying the process is very different in each art form. And even within that art form, oil is so forgiving.
Mediums,
Yeah, you can make a mistake, you can, you know, erase it with a rag. But watercolors is the least forgiving. But it is also very, very, it springs surprises. Right?
Yes.
You're not meant to do something, but it ends up looking good.
The
Say ek drop galti se gir gaya and you're just about to,
and then you see some.
and then you see, wow, that's looking good, and that's a learning. So I feel that music is very similar to watercolors, and you have to let yourself be guided by the magic. Jab aap stage pe ho, for example, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought is पूरा पक्का prepare करके आओ, वही गाओ जो आपको आता है, जिसमें आपने रियाज किया है, प्लान किया है. And the other school of thought is leave something for improvisations, leave something for
spontaneity.
गलती हो सकती है.
But that risk is important.
Yeah,
Only
risk
then
is important.
the possibility of originality finds its way.
Yeah. और अगर वो गलती है, own it. Own it.
Like, be humble. Just
be
hold
humble.
your ear.
For example, my Guruji tells me, Ustad Amir Khan Saab has in many concerts, not many, in a few concerts, after the concert actually told his audience that I'm sorry today I did not do justice.
Acha.
Look at the humility.
Yes.
Right?
And honesty of an artist.
Honesty and to actually tell his rasikas and to empower his rasikas.
Yes.
That I'm singing for you and I didn't do justice probably.
Because I've also heard somebody, I don't know who, it percolated into my understanding that if you've made a mistake on the stage, don't let the audience know, they would know. But that's dishonesty. Yeah. So I would really appreciate and admire this kind of an integrity that an artist could have and should have to the audience, where you own up. And you're still there because you, I mean, your humility makes you who you are. If you're genuinely.
So that is what the process teaches you. So for me, the process of doing a watercolor tells me that you can make mistakes, but something can come out of that mistake also. And that I apply to my music.
That's brilliant, because that's so philosophical that if we are too scared of making mistakes, we'll perhaps never be able to create something very different, hatke, something innovative only comes when we have the freedom to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And all philosophies talk about that. You have the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, where you say that you cannot be perfect. Accept that imperfection. But that's not an excuse for performing less.
Or for complacency.
Yeah.
Totally
Don't
agree.
be mediocre. Put in your best, try your best, but let something come out of spontaneity.
Leave room for that.
That is the role of that unknown God Almighty, who might, insert himself or herself through your art. So leave some scope for that. And for me, that has come from my grounding in art.
That's amazing. I mean, this for me, as an audience or as a listener, I realize how one art in your life is enriching your other art, and how you flitting between the different arts is overall nurturing journey for you as at the core of you being an artist, not specifically belonging to any particular genre, so to say, genre.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And at this
Hmm.
point, I'd also like to make, if I may, one more
Hmm.
point about the process being important.
Hmm.
For me, the journey is
Hmm.
more important than
Hmm.
the destination. Well, it's a motto which has been said by a lot. You hear a lot, even cricketers talk about that.
Hmm.
And the counter argument would be that if that destination is not there, where are you going?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yes, I agree destination is important.
Hmm.
But I want to tell the viewers that through my own experience, I feel that don't get, swayed away by the destination.
Hmm.
That destination could be different for everybody,
Hmm.
has to be different for
Hmm.
everybody.
Hmm.
So you please find out what is the destination that you want to be, and that is a moving target.
It's a dynamic journey.
It's dynamic, yeah.
If you pre-plan too much, you may just somewhere miss out on what you were meant to do, because your inner spirit is also moment to moment guiding you. That's a very beautiful lesson that our audience and I, as a listener, is getting the reinforcement of through your explaining it.
Absolutely,
in this manner.
enjoy the journey. Enjoy that period when you have to plan for your concert or for your exhibition or for your whatever, poetry recitation, anything, or for your presentation. That planning period, that riyaz, what you put in, that is bigger than when you actually go and perform or present.
Like we see a lot of contemporary artists, performing artists, especially Hindustani classical vocalists, sometimes they're in such a rush, and maybe too many concerts back to back is not giving them enough time to spend in that essential stuti of music. It's a tapasya, no? Tapasya, puja.
Yeah,
so अगर उसके
sadhana,
लिए sadhana, कि हाँ उसके लिए अगर आपने sacrosanct time नहीं रखा, and you're just like the destination of just performing, somewhere the soul of the music oozes out of you.
But the counter argument would be that they are in demand and the music is appreciated. People want more, so they are giving what is expected of them. But I personally feel that you do need time to reflect. After all, reflection can happen only when you look down at you, look at you. And how, if you are always looking at the goal, you don't look at yourself. So reflection has to happen when you look at you. Take time out, and वो गुरुजी हमेशा कहते हैं साक्षी भाव से देखो. अगर आप साक्षी भाव से देखोगे, आपको गुरु की ज़रूरत नहीं है, वो गुरु आपके ही अंदर है. So that sakshi bhav can come only when there is quietude. When you are done with something, you are reflecting.
You have that time to connect to your deeper self.
Yeah. And that is important, and that I would definitely request all the younger practitioners of art to take that time out. Don't be in a hurry. What is meant to be yours will come to you. And there is space for everybody.
That's so beautiful.
There's space for everybody. Also enjoy other people's success.
Yes.
Enjoy their performances. But you don't have to be them.
It's when we idolize somebody too much and we want to emulate someone blindly, that is where we fail to discover our real journey. And in our interaction sometime today, I think you had mentioned a beautiful example of Ustad Amir Khan Sahab, where you said that he would do that Ati Vilambit thing, and then he would want or vet the audience or appeal to them that I want you to take this journey with me. So which is very opposite to what you're saying, that okay, the contemporary artists or some of them are just catering to what is the demand of the time, kya bikega, that kind of a thing, versus doing justice to your muse in a very, very honest manner, and actually enabling and allowing or exposing your audience consciously to what is the most pristine form of music.
I'd like to recount a very beautiful story from Ustad Amir Khan Saab's life. Since you spoke about his Ati Vilambit, there is a story which is there in the book also, which was written on Ustad Amir Khan Saab by my guru Pandit Tejpal Singh Ji. He talks about one time when Ustad Amir Khan Saab went for a music conference to Mirzapur. And he sat and he started singing his Sati Vilambit. And the audience after 10 minutes demanded that he sing a Thumri. And at that point, the organizer, he continued singing unfazed. And the organizer came and whispered to his ears saying that the audience wants you to sing Thumri. So he was baffled. He said, I don't sing Thumris. And then he explained that I have nothing against Thumris. I love Thumris. There are people who sing beautiful Thumris, but it's not me. I don't sing Thumris. And he packed his bag and he left.
Okay.
He left the stage. And he says that was his biggest learning. He went back and he was very, very sure that he had to give the audience his style of music, which is slow and meditative. He went back, he practiced, and he came back and he popularized Ati Vilambit in a big way.
Oh, that's so powerful to understand when the artist can deeply feel and deeply have that conviction about what he's doing, then he can pass it on. So he had that inner thing was guiding him, that he had to do justice to that form of music. That's a huge takeaway. So Ramaji, tell us a little bit about your Indore Gharana Gaiki. What are the specialities of it?
See, Indore Gharana is the most recent Gharana. How do you classify a system as Gharana? It is believed if 3 generations of musicians sing in a particular style, then that can be considered a Gharana. And of course, there are conditions for what can be a Gharana. It's not just tinkering of a few things from a pre-existing Gharana that will classify it to be a new Gharana. You need to have a list of things, at least 10 things which are new.
Which identify you as
Yeah,
having a
which gives it a good, solid
identity.
So, Ustad Amir Khan Saab is the founder of Indore Gharana. And there are some salient features, of course, बहुत salient features हैं, but the top 2 or 3 I'll tell you. He was the one who introduced the idea of Meru Khand.
And what is Meru Khand?
See, Meru Khand it's a concept which has existed from Sangeet Ratnakar mein aap dekhoge, you'll find the idea of Meru Khand. It's how you look at the 7 notes. The various phrases of 7 notes, you divide them into khand, and then you make various combinations of each one of them. Okay, so it gives you a guide to the raga using those notes. Summarizing it, if you look at the 7 notes, agar aap 7 ke combination karoge, like 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, it comes to 5040. So 5040 different combinations Ustad Amir Khan Saab is supposed to have memorized.
Incredible.
Incredible, right? So that shows in his music. So then he also says that everyone cannot do it because he was infused in music from birth.
And he was a born genius, I guess.
Born genius and genius सिर्फ नहीं थे, बहुत
मेहनती dedicated. हाँ.
तो
It has to be a combination.
बहुत रियाज किया. And he was born in a family, which means that family of musicians, which means that he has done riyaz even before he started singing, literally. So his advice to us lesser mortals is that आप 4 के pattern तैयार करो. 4 के there'll be 24 patterns. या 5 के तैयार करो, 120 patterns. even that will give you a lot of variety in your music. Then the other beautiful thing that is part of Indore Gharani Gaiki is that he infused a lot of Persian. Amir Khusro के काफ़ी रुबाई उन्होंने गानों में डाले थे, like in तरानास, बड़े ख्याल में भी वो गाते थे. एक का मैं आपको ज़रूर सुना के दिखाऊं.
Yeah, I would love to. I wanted to say that if you could give us a sample of it by in your voice, in your
So
singing.
these are the top two features of Indore Gharana Gaiki. Of course, many other things that he did. He introduced a lot of ragas from the south and popularized those, and a lot of compositions also composed by him into Indore Gharane Gaiki. So now today there are 3 or 4 generations of musicians singing Indore Gharane ki Gaiki beautifully. So I think it's a beautiful Gharana style, and at this point I'd like to share with the audience that my Guruji Pandit Tejpal Singh Ji has written a beautiful book on his Guru, which has also been translated by Srimati Meena Banerjee ji into English. The book was written in Hindi along with his Shishya, Dr. Prerna Arora.
So this book covers the entire journey of Amir Khan Sahab, the bandishes that he composed, and it's a complete treatise of everything, all the contributions of Amir Khan Sahab.
At this point, I'd also like to say that this is one of those unique books where Guruji has just given his knowledge. He has also given the patterns of Merukhand notes.
Okay.
He has also given the notations ke saath lyrics of
So this
Khan
will
Sahab's.
be a tremendous value addition for any aspiring musician.
Tremendous. It's out there, and he's literally saying, go and learn it. So please buy this book, get hold of this book, and not just Indore Gharane wale, but it's a treat for
Any music?
anyone.
The serious music exponent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just had a peek into the book and I'm very curious and I really want to devour it. So we can have you now. Please enthrall our audience with your beautiful singing and your content which you work on so passionately.
Absolutely. So this is a Persian rubai which Khan Sahab used to sing in Ati Vilambit form.
When you say rubai, would you explain it?
Rubai is a form of poetry in Persian. It's like a quadrant. So this was written in those times. बहुत पुराना poem है. And the translation is that the poet is talking to the Almighty, saying that I am full of mistakes. मेरे में अवगुण ही हैं और मैं इन अवगुणों के साथ आपको अप्रोच कर रहा हूँ, आपसे मैं विनती कर रहा हूँ कि मुझे आप शरण में ले लीजिए, क्योंकि आप में कोई अवगुण नहीं है. So because of that, you will forgive my mistakes. So he is actually requesting the Lord Almighty to take him the way he is with all his defects.
ये शाह जे बरमाने दरवेश निगर बरहाल मन खस्ता दिल रे ये शाह जेकर
Soulful is the only word that comes to my mind. It's so intense.
Again,
so
it's
beautiful.
set in a tal called Jhumra,
Acha.
which was revived by Ustad Amir Khan Sahab in the Ati Vilambit format. उससे पहले गाया बजाया नहीं जाता था इतना झुमरा इस लय में. So
तो ये जो आपने गाया ये अति विलंबित थोड़ी था.
ये अति विलंबित नहीं था,
बट
it is to be sung.
Okay.
क्योंकि हम अपने श्रोताओं के लिए यहाँ गा रहे थे तो मैंने इसको बहुत अति विलंबित नहीं किया. But it is sung in that form.
But I'm sure they would have loved it. I mean, it was so intense. I loved every bit of it. So I see no reason. I mean, definitely Amir Khan Sahab and his reason for that conviction was very well placed because it's so powerful. So I'm so glad that you enthralled us with this. Thank you so much. So there are a couple of more questions in my head. One is, of course, I mean, what do you see the future of Hindustani classical music, and what is going to be your contribution to in the coming years? Where do you see yourself? In what ways are you going to be making your further?
Sure. Hindustani classical music has a bright future. Since there's social media, you can see that there are so many youngsters who are learning Hindustani classical music. They are learning, they're performing, they're putting it out there. So you know that there are so many people, so many older musicians who are also teaching thanks to, internet. A lot of them are approachable, online teaching is happening. So it is something which is looking bright, but I don't know in what form it will exist, say after 10-15 years. I see maybe there will be a lot more of fusion, the pace will be faster, the concert duration itself might come down, all those things might happen, but I'm no one to, say whether it's going to be good or bad. I feel quite optimistic about the future of Hindustani, Indian classical music.
And your own contribution?
My own role, I want to work more and more in thematic concerts. As I mentioned to you, I'm very, very fond of poetry. So for me, lyrics are very important, even though Hindustani classical music is rag based, rag pradhan sangeet hai. But lyrics for me are very important because that lends the bhava to my music. So I would like to do more and more of concerts where I sing Bhakti Sen's poetry, which speaks to me. And I'm also a very passionate, student of Gandhian philosophy. And I have worked extensively connecting Gandhian philosophy to music and reflecting that through classical format of singing. So I want to basically devote a lot of time into these two thematic concerts. That I hope would be my contribution to, the society, where the idea is that of unity.
Unity.
Yeah. Because we see a lot of compartmentalization. Even if you see classical music, Hindustani music ही ले लो आप, उसमें आप देखोगे तो घराने की बात हो जाती है. ये मेरा घराना है, ये आपका घराना है. Or we say this is Hindustani, that is Carnatic. Or we say this is Indian music, that is Western music. There is always me and you, me and you. So I just want through my music to bring in a lot of unity. And
somewhere dilute those boundaries.
Yeah, show that there are differences, but
at the core
they are the same.
Quintessentially.
Yeah, which is why my study of Bhakti Sen saying that they speak different languages, they come from different eras, but they still spoke about the same thing, and that is the unity of unifying themselves with the Almighty. They went through different routes, followed different methods, but goal wahi tha unka. So that unity is what is my message to my listeners and my audience.
That's very nice. So, Ramaji, what do you think about Chaibrary as a channel?
This is a favorite question of mine because I get to reflect on what Chaibrary is doing and how it's connecting artists with the audience. One might say that there are a lot of channels which do this kind of a thing. Yes, there is an explosion, but what I like about Chaibrary is that you're trying to combine art forms. So I'm loving the fact that you're looking at art holistically. I'm loving the fact that you are talking to different practitioners who practice different genre, and you're bringing them all together and trying to infuse, everything together. And again, it comes down to what I was just saying, the idea of unity. Art is one. I mean, you may be a poet, you may be a musician, you may be a painter, you may be a potter, but आप achieve तो वही करना चाहते हो. I want to be one with sur. You want to be one with words. Another person wants to be one with the beat of his or her ghungru. So it's all about oneness, and I love the fact that you're trying to look at it holistically. It's something which has not been done too much thus far. I mean, one enjoys the work of Kandinsky and those who painted music through their abstract art. So I'm loving the idea of Chaibrary bringing in the community of artists who are multifaceted or who may not even be multifaceted, but when you look at Chaibrary as a whole unit,
it's a bouquet of
beautiful
all the
word,
varied.
bouquet of and I love the word Chaibrary. It gives a chai is our favorite drink, right? And library ko dono ko
it's a
mila
beautiful
ke.
fusion of these two.
So all the very best to your channel, and it was a pleasure talking to you, Bhumika, because you also work on different genres and as passionate as each one of them as I am. So it was wonderful talking to you and exchanging my ideas with you.
Thank you so much, Ramaji. It was such a pleasure having you here in the studio of Chaibrary today. And I'm sure our audience have all loved this interaction with Rama Sundarji. And we are all going to be looking forward to her future projects, her performances, and her painting show that is coming up very soon. Let's all just kind of gear ourselves up with all the artistic spirit. Thank you again, Ramaji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I request our audience to stay connected to Chaibrary and subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends and family, and ensure that you press the bell icon to receive regular updates. And till I come again with the next episode to all of you, here's Bhumika Jain signing off from the sets of Chaibrary. Thank you.